Hello everyone and welcome to tutorial number 34 in a series of video tutorials for Java programming. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button and click on the bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial I upload on my channel. So in the last tutorial I discussed about checked and unchecked exceptions. So I discussed about the concept and after that I gave a few examples of both checked as well as unchecked exception. So in this tutorial, we are going to be talking about the other remaining concepts like, we have the concept of multiple catch clauses. Yeah, I have already, told you how to use a try catch block. Okay. So in this tutorial, I will be talking about, finally keyword also, how to use the finally. So if it is possible from my side. So if get the time, then I will definitely do that. So now let's get started. So first of all, let us start with multiple catch clauses because I already told you how to use the try catch block. Okay. So using try catch block is very easy. You just need to use try. Okay, write try. Then after that, put the braces to complete the block. Then after that, put a catch here. Okay, and inside the parenthesis, you need to write the name of the exception. Okay, so now I'm going to create multiple catch clauses. So let's get started. So first thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to create multiple catch clauses. So there is going to be a single try block, but there can be multiple catch blocks. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let me just do what I did in the last tutorial. Like we have arithmetic exception. Okay, so int I equals to 23 divided by 0. Okay, all right, and I am going to change the name here to arithmetic exception. Okay, I am going to write arithmetic exception here, and here I am going to write system.out.println arithmetic exception, or you can even write division by 0 error. Okay, so something like that, division by 0 error. So now this was the first try catch. So after that you can write another try catch. Okay, for let us say negative array index exception. Okay, negative array size exception, or you can even say let us do negative only, negative array size exception, AE. Okay, then here I'm going to write array size cannot be negative. Okay, so I'm just giving the example here. So array size cannot be negative. All right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to first of all press the play button. So this is how we are going to create multiple catch blocks. Okay. So we have a single try block. Then after that we have multiple catch blocks. So first catch block is here, and the second catch block is here. All right. So now if I press the run button, it is going to show division by 0 error because the very first line it is not going to work. So it is going to show division by 0 error. All right. So what happened? It did not do anything. Okay, it is executing. It is executing. Let us wait. It is taking some time. Yes. So it is shown division by 0 error. So it is executing this particular catch block. All right. So now I am going to remove this particular catch. I'm going to remove that particular division by 0, and then I'm going to create an array with negative size. Okay. So array with a negative size. So minus 50. Okay, and then I'm going to press the this play button, run button, and then this particular part will get skipped because this is not the exception which is getting caught, but this is the exception which is getting caught. So it is going to say arrays in the size cannot be negative. And one additional thing I would like to add whenever you are using multiple catch blocks is that you cannot write catch exception here. Okay, so you cannot write catch exception here. Okay, the reason why that is not allowed is because if I hover over this, it is going to say, it is going to say that this exception has already been caught, and it is going to show the same thing here once again. Okay, so why this thing is like this is because exception, it is a super class of all these exceptions. All right, so this particular catch block, it can come only after, at the last, it can come only after this negative array size exception. Okay, because if you think about it this way, okay, arithmetic exception, it is also kind of exception only. Okay, arithmetic exception, it is extending from exception, so arithmetic exception, it is a kind of exception. Similarly, negative array size exception, it is also kind of exception. So basically, if you write this particular block here, okay, instead of writing here as I showed you, if you write it here, it is going to throw an error, because this arithmetic exception, it is the kind of exception. So this arithmetic exception, it will be caught here itself. Okay, similarly, this negative array size exception, this also will be caught here. Okay, so because of this reason, it will say that it has already been caught. Okay, this is the super class of, exception is the super class of arithmetic exception, and similarly exception is the super class of negative array size exception. So you should always remember that thing, that whenever you're using multiple catch blocks, always you should write the name of the subclasses first, and after that you should write the name of the super class at the last, at the end. Because if you write the super class name, you should remember that it can catch all the exceptions which are subclasses. Like this arithmetic exception, if you write this exception, it can catch arithmetic exception as well, it can catch negative array size exception also, it can catch IO exception, it can catch class not found exception, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you should always remember this thing, that this super class, it should always appear at the end. Okay, so this is one thing which you need to remember if you are using multiple catch clauses. Otherwise, if you write it in an improper order, like you cannot write this catch exception in between these two things. Okay, that is also not allowed. The reason why it is not allowed is because exception is a super class of this particular class. Okay, so because of this reason, exception, it should always appear at the last, always. So that is how we can use multiple catch clauses. Now I am going to talk about the nested try statement. So let's do that. Nested try statement. So I'm just going to write exception here, because as I said earlier, exception, if you write, if you write the name of the class as exception inside catch, it can catch all kinds of exception. It can catch arithmetic, it can catch IO, it can catch any kind of exception. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another try block here. Okay, so obviously you need to write a catch block inside this. Okay, so here I'm going to write arithmetic exception. Okay, AE, and here I'm going to put AE dot print stack trace. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put I equals to I divided by 0. Obviously it is going to cause a arithmetic exception, and I'm going to write one another exception, that is array index out of bounds exception, let us say, or number, let us do number format exception instead. So int I, it is equals to integer dot pass int. Okay, integer dot pass int. So I'm going to write something like so this thing is going to throw a number format exception. So right now, if I execute this particular program, obviously this should be J. This should be J. All right. So right now, if I execute this particular program, then this particular thing, it is going to throw arithmetic exception. So this particular line, it is not going to get executed. So let us see what happens. So yeah, it is throwing arithmetic exception. It is not even coming to this line. That is fine with me. So now I am going to make this line as a comment, or I am going to remove this comment. Let us say I am multiplying I by 2. I am multiplying I by 2, let us say. Obviously, but that exception has got removed now. Now this is going to throw a you know number, it is number format exception. So I'm going to write here system dot out dot println outer catch block executed. There is a reason why I'm doing that. Outer catch block executed. All right. So now if I press this run button, then what happens? It is going to show outer catch block executed. Now that is how the things work. So here what have we noticed? If you're using a nested try block, okay, then we are writing this particular statement, okay, which is going to create a number format exception. Okay, so this is going to definitely create a number format exception. So I'm just going to print the exception in the next line. So it is going to create a number format or throw a number format exception. So this is throwing a number format exception in the inner try block. Okay, as we can see here. But however, we are not handling it in the inside the inner try block. We are handling it outside the in the outer try catch. Okay, so if it is not handled, first of all, what the program will do, it will see whether it is handled inside the inner block. If it is not handled within the inner block, then it is going to go to the outer block, and then it is going to handle it. Now these things are unchecked exceptions, so let me try one checked exception. Like we have a class not found exception, right? So let's do that. Class dot for name. Okay, so I'm going to write something like this. Obviously this class, it does not exist, so it is going to throw class not found exception. And you can see one thing here, this is a checked exception, but still it is not throwing any error. Okay, the reason why it is not throwing error is because I've written the catch statement here. So the way this nested try statement works is, first of all, it will check whether it has been handled inside the inner try catch. If it has been handled inside the inner try catch, then it's fine. It's not going to create any problems. Otherwise, it is going to check whether it has been handled in the outer catch block. Okay, if it has not been handled there, then it is going to throw an error. So that is how the things are going to work. Now instead of exception, if I write IO exception here, then it is going to throw an error. Okay, so that's the way this particular thing is going to work. Or let me write arithmetic exception once again here. Okay, so then it is going to throw an error because it is not been handled in the outer try catch also. So that is the way the thing is going to work. Now, as soon as I renamed it back to exception, the error went away. All right. So that's how the the concept of the nested try statement works. First of all, it will check whether the exception has been handled inside the inner try catch. If it has not been handled in the inner try catch, then it will go to the outer catch block. It will check whether it has been handled in the outer catch blocks or not. If it has not been handled there, and if it is a checked exception, then it is going to throw an error. If it is an unchecked exception, then it is not going to give any errors. Like I'm talking about compile time errors. All right. So this was about the concept of nested statement. Then we have the concept of throw keyword. So as I said earlier, we can use throw keyword to throw a particular exception. Like for example, here I'm going to throw an exception. Throw new. Let us say throw new exception. Okay. So it is going to throw new exceptions. So how this particular program is going to work. First of all, it will call the main method, obviously, and as soon as it calls the main method, it will go to the try block. it is going to throw exception, and the exception it will be caught by the catch block, and then it is going to print outer catch block executed. So I'm just going to press the run button here, and it is going to show catch block is executed. Okay, so basically, we are throwing an exception manually. So if you are, whenever you are throwing exception manually, we need to use the throw keyword followed by the object of the exception class. Now, one thing, which you need to remember is, we cannot write whatsoever we want to write here. Okay, like for example, let me, show the example of Java that util.scanner class. Okay, it is not an exception, but you cannot throw it. It is not allowed. Okay, so I'm going to write new scanner. So new scanner, then system dot in. So now what is happening? It is going to throw an error. It is going to throw an error because required type is throwable. Okay, but you are providing a scanner type, and the scanner class, it is not deriving from throwable class. Okay, so one thing you need to keep in mind is that you cannot write whatever you want to write here. The class, it has to derive from the exception class. Okay, and the exception class itself, it is deriving from the exception class itself, it is deriving from the throwable class. Now if I hover over this exception class, you can see here public java.lang package. Okay, it is defined inside this package. Public class exception extends throwable. So throwable is the class which it is extending from. Okay, so if you are throwing something, then you should always remember that the object should be of a class which is extending from exception or throwable. All right, obviously you can write even runtime exception here. Okay, it is not going to give any errors. Okay, but the thing is, runtime exception itself, if it is going to derive from exception only. Okay, java.lang.runtime exception, it is extending exception, and exception itself, it is extending from throwable. Okay, so you cannot write whatever you want to write here. You should remember that it should always extend from with exception class. All right, then after that, throws keyword. So throws keyword, we can use here in the method definition. First of all, throws, then after that the name of the exception. Okay, like I'm writing exception here. So now if I write this particular statement, I don't even need to use try catch. I don't even need to use try catch. Like for example, here I'm writing class.forName. Okay, class.forName. So I can write this particular statement without using try catch, because already I have specified that this particular main function, it is going to throw an exception. It has the possibility of throwing an exception. So I already informed the compiler about that. So because of that reason, the compiler, it is going to know that this particular function, it might throw an exception, and it is not going to give any error. So it is going to run fine, and obviously it is going to throw class not found exception. All right. So then after that, so this is the way, we are going to use this throws keyword. So, whenever you are creating a custom function like public void, let us say display, and after that, I'm going to write throws exception. Okay. So that means this has a possibility of throwing exception, and obviously I can write the name of any checker exception here. It is not going to give any errors. All right. And it is going to work fine. But the thing is, after throws keyword, you can write as many number of exceptions as you want. Like for example, you can write class not found exception. Okay, you can write arithmetic exception if you want. Then after that, you can write number format exception. You can write as many exceptions as you want here. Okay, so all of them must be separated by commas. Okay, and you can write null pointer exception also if you want. So you can write as many exceptions as you want here. Okay, so obviously you need to remember that the method has to throw that particular exception, and you need to separate these exceptions with the help of commas. All right. So this was about the throws keyword. Then after that, I'm going to talk about the finally keyword. So finally keyword is nothing but, like, we're creating a try block here. Okay. So, I want, after this try, I'm going to create finally. You need to remember that, either you need to write catch block here, or you need to write, finally block here. Obviously, you can definitely write the catch block before finally if you want. Okay, it is not going to give any errors whatsoever. Okay, but it is up to you. Okay, it is not giving any error, it is only giving a warning. So, but that it is not giving the warning for this. Okay, so you can definitely create a catch block before finally block, that is up to you. Now the thing is, I'm going to write a statement here, like for example, uh, let us say that array index out of bounds, let us say. So int I is new int 70, let us say, and I am trying to access the 71st element, 70th element. Okay, it is not 70 actually, it is the 71st element because the array index starts from 0. So this is going to throw, obviously this is going to throw a exception. So array index out of bounds exception. Then after that, I want to write something here. Okay, whatever logic I want to write here, you should remember that you are not supposed to write any suspicious code inside finally. For example, I cannot write class.font name here, because this particular method, it can throw an exception. So you are not supposed to write this inside the finally block. Okay, you should always write this particular statement inside try block. You should never write this inside the finally block because it is not going to work. So, non-suspicious code, okay, mostly, this finally block, it is used for, like, for executing the code, which you're damn sure that it should definitely get executed. Okay, this finally block, it will always get executed, okay, regardless of whether the exception is thrown or not. So right now, if I, write here, always executed, then after that, if I press on this run button, then it is going to say always executed, and obviously it is going to throw this exception as well. So this is going to throw this exception array index out of bounds, but even after that it is going to execute this finally block. So finally block is always executed whether your program is throwing an exception or the program is not throwing an exception. So that particular thing is there. So so this was about the concept of the finally block. So it will always get executed. So you are not supposed to write any suspicious code inside this finally block. Then after that, we can create custom exceptions also. So for example, I'm creating a new Java class for that, and I'm calling it as a my exception. Then I'm extending this particular class from exception. That's all you're supposed to do for creating a custom exception. Okay, you don't need to define anything else. You just need to write this statement for creating a custom exception. Okay, because all the constructors are by default defined here. So you don't need to define anything here. Obviously, if you want to define that particular message or something, then you can do that. So there is a constructor which accepts the message. So you can, for that purpose, we can use this particular thing. Then super message. Okay, so this is going to call the constructor of the exception class. Okay, which is going to accept a message string. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw, and I'm going to throw new exception, new custom exception, my exception. Now, as soon as we do this, it is going to give an error. Okay, because it is saying unhandled exception. The reason why it is giving an error is because you are not writing this inside a try catch block. If you write this inside a try catch block, it will not give an error. And moreover, this particular exception, my exception, it is extending from the exception class. And exception, those classes which are directly extending from the exception class, they are, they are caught exceptions. So obviously it is going to throw an error. So here I need to write throws exception. Okay. So then after that I can say that, error occurred or something like that. So this is how we can create a custom exception. Then after that, if I press on this run button, it is going to throw that my exception. All right, error occurred. Then, in the much the same manner, you can, extend from runtime exception also instead of exception. But this particular exception, now this my exception, it becomes a unchecked exception because my exception is extending from runtime exception. That means this becomes a uncaught exception. So you don't need to write the throws keyword. You don't need to necessarily put it inside try catch. But obviously the exception is going to be thrown in this much the same manner. Okay. So basically, those classes which are directly inheriting from the exception class, these are caught exceptions, and those classes which are directly extending from runtime exception, these are uncaught exceptions. All right. So that's all I'm going to talk about in this particular tutorial. So if you have any kind of doubts or any kind of questions, then don't forget to post in the comment section below and I will get back to you when I can. And if you liked this particular tutorial, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.